Pali. We should study Pali literature to understand at first hand the culture of India embedded in it, as well as its economic, social, historical and other conditions. We should study it for understanding Buddha's view on caste system, a cancer of our society, on how to pragmatically solve law and order problems, how to achieve social harmony and material prosperity, how to liquidate poverty and how to keep willing people profitably engaged. We should also study it for knowing the duties of a king or a government towards people and how can a republic prosper and not decline. We should also study it for understanding the nature and importance of mind. Mind is the source of all actions, good or bad. Mano pubbangama dhamma, mano settha, mano maya, etc. It is our mind which binds us to the wheel of birth and death, and it is our mind once again which liberates us and frees us from all existential sufferings. A well-trained mind can do us great good, and if it is not properly trained, it can do us immense harm. The Buddha rightly said, Chittena niyati loko chittena parikassati. It is mind which guides the world. It is mind which drags it about. There are some suttas which explain in detail how the monkey mind can be trained and how contemplation and mindfulness can be attained. It is Pali literature and no other literature where the technique of Vipassana meditation is explained at great length. Vipassana meditation is the practical aspect of Buddha's teachings, that is Pariyatti. This Vipassana is called Patipatti and the teachings of the Buddha are called Pariyatti. The teachings of the Buddha are not only to read and know, but their great importance can be realized only after putting them into practice. Nobody, not even a great scholar, can understand the great importance of the teachings of the Buddha unless one practices Vipassana, which enables him to have experiential knowledge, that is Bhavanamayi Pragya, which makes him see the important nature of the things of the impermanent nature of the things of the world, enables him to develop detachment and get rid of existential suffering caused by raga, that is craving for objects one likes. And Vipassana can be practiced by observing moral precepts. Sila. Observation of moral precepts helps one tame his mind, attain concentration and enable him to see that all objects of the world, even beautiful objects, are constantly changing, are in a constant state of flux. In no other literature do we find the detailed description of how to tame our mind and how to do it. Knowing how to control it is not enough, but walking on the path to do so is very, very helpful. Tumhe kitya matapam akkhataro tathagata. Practice of Vipassana meditation helps one develop Bhavanamayi Pragya, experiential knowledge. Buddha's great contribution to world culture. The other two, Pragyad, Srutmayi and Chintanmayi Pragya, can be acquired by hearing what others say and reading books. But Bhavanamayi Pragya can be acquired by attaining concentration of mind, which is possible only when one lives a virtuous life. Vipassana enables one to see where desire arises and how it can be ended. If cravings and desires is the cause of suffering are annihilated, one can end one's suffering and attain Nibbana. the summum bonum of life. By practicing vipassana, one can be able to understand what Vedana Pachaya Tanha, sensations produce desire, actually means, and how by remaining equanimous and not reacting, desires can be reduced and ultimately annihilated. One had just to train himself to see how this dynamo, which works day in and day out, is fueled by desires and produces desires. If one sees this process clearly and trains himself not to react but remain equanimous, tatastha, he can free himself from suffering and become liberated. In one of my essays, I have explained how the message of the Gita and how can the concept of a sthit prajna can be better understood if vipassana is practiced. See my essay entitled The Panya That Purifies and Liberates. Pali literature is born out of prajna, that is experiential knowledge, not out of imagination. Pali Sahitya prajna prasut hai, kalpana prasut nahi hai. It gives expression to the life experiences, bitter and sweet, of real persons like Khema, Ambapali, Sumedha, Uppalvanna, Subhut, Dabb, Rathpal, Ther, Talput, etc. Here are mostly historically real persons, not only from upper class but also from other classes, who express their experiences of life, particularly those experiences which transform their lives. They are poets and poetesses in whom there are both vision and expression, darshan and varnan of that. According to Bhattatot, these are the characteristics of a good poet, darshanar, varnanar cha. T.S. Eliot, in his essay on Goethe as the sage, says that the true sage is rarer than the true poets, and when the two gifts, that of wisdom and that of poetic speech, are found in the same person, in the same person, you have the greatest poet. Such poets belong to the whole world. The Buddha, the Theras and the Theris have both the gifts of wisdom and poetic speech. Buddha's first udan, anek jati samsarang sandhavisam anibhisam gahkarakam gave santo dukkha jati punapunam gahkarak dikthosi punagehang nakahasi sabbate fasuka bhagga gahkutang visankhatang visankharagatam chittang tandhanam khayamajjaga. And Thedi Uttaraj Samulang Tannamabhya Siti Bhutam Minibhuta. The meaning is rooting out all desires. I attained Nibbana. I have become cool and quenched. The sublime theme of Pali literature is Sreya, not prayer. This is the only literature perhaps in the whole world where Santharas, only Santharas is delineated. No other literature does this exclusively. Even Sringar Ras, see Gathas of Ambapali, and Veer Ras as depicted in the Buddha's fight with Mara, end in Santaras. That is why I say that here is a literature that takes off from other literatures, from where other literatures land. Pali literature, at least the canonical part of it, is free from curses and blessings, which are abundantly found in other literatures of the world. Here is a literature which shows that you reap only what you sow. पाली साहित्य में न तो अश्रु प्रवणता है, न हेयता, न कुरुचि, न काल्पनिकता. यह प्रत्यक्ष ज्ञान से निश्रित अनुपम साहित्य है. Pali literature also should be studied for its Atthakathas, Tikas, Anutikas, and Madhutika. Such a detailed genre of literature is not found elsewhere, not even in Sanskrit literature. Besides meanings of words given in Attakathas, we also find kathas or narratives, why places like Savatthi, Kapilvatthu, Vaisali, etc. are named, and why Lichhvis are called Lichhvis. These quasi-historical descriptions make very good reading. Pali grammar. Pali grammar is easier to learn than Sanskrit grammar because Pali has only two numbers, singular and plural. Tatiya case and Panchami and Chatuthi and Chhathi are almost the same. So it is less time taking to learn than Sanskrit. As there is no tradition of teaching Pali and learning Pali as it should be taught and learned, so special Pali teaching courses should be organized as Professor Gadpal has been organizing these days. Special arrangements of organizing such courses should be made, and all Pali teachers and others who are really interested in learning Pali language should be given opportunity to attend such courses. Pali language and literature should be introduced in high schools. Some stories from the Jatakas explaining Paramitas like Dana, Sila, Virja, etc. should be introduced. This will go a long way in instilling the sublime teachings of the Buddha into young, growing minds. In colleges, it should be introduced as an important subject, and only those who love and like Buddha's teachings and who are really interested in Pali language and literature should be appointed as teachers. They should be encouraged to join Pali language teaching crash courses and should also be encouraged to sit in the Vipassana course. It is incumbent on the government to include Pali in the 8th schedule so that it can get its due. Teaching Pali literature is the need of the hour, for the sublime teachings of the Buddha are very relevant today, perhaps more relevant than ever.